let's go over a few of the structural details of this prop. Let's see. First off, the blower has outlets in it, so that's kind of handy. I can charge the phone when I'm not doing other stuff. Okay, structurally, it's the A-frame support with a main side-to-side beam, which is the seesaw, basically. The center joint here has 3 bearings on each side. It's a total of 6 bearings. They're rated at about 300 pounds each, so that's like 1,800 pounds load limit, which seems pretty safe. We've got bolts, extra washers. Okay. And then in the other joints, the counterweight shelf and the basket pivot at either end of the main beam. Those only have double bearings. I guess I could have tripled them also, but I mean, doubled is like 1,200 pound limit, so that seems like plenty. Those are the end points of the beam, whereas the middle point will have additional weight on it from both sides. Okay, so that's the theoretical limit. I started looking up online what the structural limit of these various types of wood sizes are, but I kind of discontinued that effort. But anyway, this is a 2x6, and or is it 2x8? Anyway, and then the basket itself is 2x4s primarily. It's got a cardboard face on it, but the structural members are 2x4s. Let's see, the A-frame itself is also 2x4s. And any joints that I thought were critical joints are reinforced with a metal plate. This makes sure that the A-frame does not come apart. It's got several screws in it. It's also screwed directly, the parts together. This little guide here just helps to center the basket otherwise sometimes it bumps or knocks the A-frame when it's coming down. So this just helps guide it a little bit more smoothly. I mentioned my little utility rack here earlier. So basically this area of the A-frame is not yet blocked. The main cross piece, that's as far down as it goes on this side, and similar on the other side. So from here down is clear. If you have stuff like this hanging out, no big deal. Down below, I kind of use it just for general storage. So the A-frame also has a couple of cross pieces, like this one here extends out further, just for additional horizontal stability, I guess. It wasn't really needed, I suppose, but I figured the wider the base, the less likely it would be to tip over. It's not going to tip over anyway, but it's pretty solid. I mean, it's wood, so it kind of wiggles a little bit, but it's pretty solid. The front also has a cross piece right there. That one I did cut the size just so I wouldn't be tripping over it all the time. What else? Okay, so the main beam goes to the back and then across and then back down. It's basically like a U-shaped bracket. And I've got cross pieces here to brace it there and there and up at the top. I also have that piece of metal kind of strapped in there. I could remove that and just replace it with about 5 additional bricks. I just haven't gotten around to that yet, because this was the initial counterweight I used when I first set up, but since I've added additional weight, like the balloon support structure and the blower are additional weight, so that initial counterweight didn't do the job anymore, so we just always have to have at least a few bricks in there. The uprights are EMT. It's 1/2-inch EMT, which is plenty. There's no real weight on it. I mean, there's a little bit. The balloon, and then the balloon itself is pretty light. So the EMT is really only holding up the PVC rim there and the balloon. Although it does provide a convenient place for kids to grab onto as they get in and out. Okay, so that's EMT. There are 4 of those, 1 in each corner, and I painted them to look like the lines that tie the balloon to the basket. The PVC rim that goes around there, that originally wasn't on. I added that because of wind. That helps hold the balloon in place quite well. And then after that, I even put ropes from the rim up and over to the other side, so there's that really stabilizes it quite well for wind. The ropes are just kind of lashed on here, so the tension can be adjusted if needed. The balloon itself runs. The bottom of the balloon is at the top of the blower. Originally, I had another panel in here that made the balloon too high, so I just cut out a layer of the balloon, and so now the overall size it matches pretty well with it. I mean, the rim and the support fit pretty well. Let's see, in the basket itself, it's just a piece of I think it's 3/4 inch wood on the floor and a 3/4 inch wood on the chair, and then it's basically like a chair made out of 2x4s and then the plywood. I was going to put a cushion in there. I haven't got around to that yet. The EMT is strapped to the 2x4s in the corners. It's plenty secure. Let's see what else. Any joints? Well, okay, there's the back brace. This is just, it's really too far back to be functional for big kids. I guess for little kids they can lean against it, or they can lean against the frame. I have cardboard wrapping the 2x4s. It provides a little bit of padding. It's softer if somebody bumps against it. Plus, it's a little bit more visual, or it looks nicer, especially on the front here. It kind of gives it sort of a basket-like look, or like a rim on the basket or something. It makes it look a little more finished. But it's just cardboard. It's not very strong. It's just mainly for looks. Oh yeah, okay, so any joints that I thought were critical have multiple screws in them. This is kind of a structural joint in that it holds the basket together. I got 3 screws going that way and 4 more going that way. So, going that way. So this corner has a total of 7 screws for structure, and then this other one here is just holding. There's one there, and then a couple on the inside. Yeah, they're holding the upright in place for the balloon. It's not as heavy, so it doesn't need as many screws in it. I use screws instead of nails because screws can be tightened, and plus it could be taken apart if it needs to. The same is true on pretty much all the joints. And I've got multiple screws here. This member, this cross piece, it's not critical. I mean, it helps stabilize the U frame, but I only have a couple screws in there. I could add more, I guess. Let's see what else. Same thing there. Same thing for the counterweight rack. This cross piece up here is really just to help stabilize the U-frame of the counterweight shelf. It's not there for strength per se, so I only have a couple screws in there. Where most of the weight comes on, I've got triple screws underneath, and plus the back. Of course, I got screws all the way around, so that's going to hold a lot of weight. Well, it holds me up at least. So I got bolts going through the top there. So the original plan, I had a shelf up here, and I was going to put weights up there. Or actually, prior to that, I was thinking of drilling holes in the side and put a barbell through, and then just load the plates on the side. That would actually be a lot quicker than loading up the bricks, but didn't have any barbells available, so I went ahead and used bricks instead. Okay, so let's see. This backing on the counterweight shelf, it helps keep the counterweight shelf squared, It also provides a little bit of back support for the bricks, so I can just push them in and they will stop. It's a backstop for the bricks. But other than that, it doesn't really need to be terribly strong. So it's only a 1/2-inch chipboard, which is what I had on hand. This plate here, this piece here, again, this is not, well, yeah, this one is a little bit structural. It helps keep the support, the A-frame squared. Originally I had braces, like an X-shaped brace, but then there's a bunch of this stuff available, so I put a slab of this on instead and just screwed it in multiple times. That really makes the A-frame pretty solid. But again, it's for to keep it squared. Same on the bottom there. I have another piece of that down here screwed to the A-frame to keep it squared. The A-frame itself is just sitting on 4x8 sheet of chipboard, 3/4 inch chipboard, which we had some extra of. So let's see what else. Structurally, I think that's pretty much it. I think I mentioned earlier. So in addition to the main cross beams, we also have an additional 2x4, a parallelogram basically. It's a horizontal stabilizer, or vertical stabilizer. So the basket cannot tilt forward and back. It will always be upright. And so that's about it. This styrofoam cloud is just for looks. Regarding initial setup, the very first, prior to the first day, it's obviously easier to position the base correctly before you on there. So this is how we have the setup here. We have kind of this corner area sort of vacant, so the balloon is occupying that. It actually could have been a little bit closer to that other sidewalk there. Just want to make sure that there's enough room between it and any groups that might be meeting nearby. I put up this safety barrier just to try to keep a little bit of distance. I'm not so much concerned about people in front of it, but if they get beside it, there's moving parts, and so it's a little bit safer to have that safety zone. Let's see, I think I mentioned my little utility rack earlier. I got the clamps, tape, and more clamps. Those are the most likely things. I have some tools in the car in case something needs adjusting, but for the most part, I don't think it does. I have spare hardware down there somewhere, like a few extra washers and nuts. Periodically, I just check to make sure. I guess I should use lock nuts or something, but I just periodically check to make sure that the nuts are still reasonably tight. There are 10 moving joints altogether. There are 6 on the main support beam. You have one on either side of the basket, one on either side in the middle of the A-frame, and one on either side of the counterweight rack. And then there are also one more on each side below, further on down the A-frame in this cross member, and down here somewhere. You can see it on the other side there. And that's for the horizontal stabilizer. This arm here prevents the basket from tilting forward or backward. It keeps it vertical, regardless of if kids are moving around or not. So, and that's a pretty useful feature. If safety, but also it's kind of handy. I can put a bottle of water in there and go up and down, and I don't have to worry about the bottle tipping over. Okay, so I just leave the blower running all morning till we shut down later. If it's not being used, I leave the safety latches on. And when it's not being used for a span of time, I usually unload the counterweight rack. Right now I'm about to do the solo mode demo, so I've got it fully loaded up for me. But normally I would just leave that as empty as possible. Just, I don't know, reduces the chance of whatever, I don't know. It leaves the frame unloaded for as long as possible. I guess that's the explanation. Okay.